Hey, welcome everyone to episode 4 of Spotlight with Renee Holder. I am your host, and I am so glad you are here. My guest today is a godsend. He's an artist and a miracle worker of hair. He's a hairstylist and now on the path to becoming a psychologist. But most of all, you know what? He's my friend. I am so delighted to welcome to the Spotlight the amazing Romeo Lewis. All right. Hello, Romeo.
Hi, Renee.
How are you, my friend?
I am wonderful. How are you?
You know what? I am good. It's a hot day in New York, but I am loving what I'm seeing outside. It's so pretty. So
Yeah.
welcome to Spotlight. I'm so glad you could join me. All right. So always, I like to start out. Before we get started, we want to talk about what we're drinking. So what are you drinking this afternoon? What are you drinking?
I'm drinking gin smash.
Ooh, what's that?
It's one of those flavored libations. It's gentle. I love gin because it doesn't have that harsh feel of hard liquor, mixed with peppermint and citrus.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's very light and it's bubbly.
Nice.
That's pretty important. I like bubbly drinks.
Yes, lovely. Well, what I'm having this afternoon is a lovely rosé. That's usually my jam.
Oh,
this one, yeah, a rosé. This one is called Chateau. Let me show it up here. Chateau de Selle. I'm finishing it. As you can see, it's finished. This is just the last. I can't really see from the lighting, but it's a nice wine, hot Chateau de Selle. It's just again refreshing and light. Not too sweet. So yes, just lovely. So let's do a cheers to conversation. Cheers, my friend. All right, welcome. Fantastic.
Oh.
All right. Let's do it.
We're fresh.
Okay, so first of all, how do we know each other? So, I think it was we've actually known each other for about at least like 20, 25 years, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was back in the mid to late 90s. I was transitioning from braids. I love those days. And I was looking for a stylist and you came highly recommended. I remember coming to your salon, the Hair Network in Toronto. Shout out to the old Hair Network. I remember that beautiful red barber chair you had on display. It's like, do not touch, do not sit in it. Don't do anything. Anyone who frequented the Hair Network knew about the chair. So, but I remember when I first met you, and from that first experience, I never looked back. I think although I've been living in the US for about 15 years now, every time I come home, I make my way to find you because at the end of the day, it's always about the hair getting pampered and my spirit getting refreshed, Oh. So tell me about those days. What do you remember from back in?
Oh my goodness, I remember that red chair because that was given to me by a very special lady. She was my mentor, who's now passed, Beverly Maskell.
Okay.
And she was downsizing at the time, and she had this barber chair. And she says, "You know what? I think this would be amazing little conversation piece in your shop. Do you want it?" It's like, do I want it? Oh my God. And that was, And so that was a marker for my experience with that awesome human being.
Yeah.
Maskell.
Do you still have the chair?
Oh, yes, I do.
Of course. Nice.
Somewhere in storage, but after 20 years of that chair being there, it's just been it's a little piece of her that will always remind me of our special relationship.
Yes. Yeah. So what else happened? Tell me about Hair Network. How did that even come to be? Well, how did you get into this?
I think it was a lifelong dream wanting to be a hairdresser, hairstylist, hair designer. But I think coming from Caribbean background, it was a little hard to share that with your parents, you know, like a guy being a hairdresser. There's only one where you're going, and it's to hell. Type of thing. No, son of mine.
Yes.
But it was several years I've been working in the bank, and I would do all the ladies' hair in the office. And my manager pulled me aside one day, and she says, you know, why are you here? Why are you here? She says, you have talent. We don't. We have to stay here. She says, and at the end of the day, you can own your own salon, but you'll never be able to own your own bank. And with that, it took me a while, a few months for me to mull this over. And I bit the bullet of going back to be a poor student. And I got a very good package, by the way.
Nice.
That helped me out with my tuition. And I never looked back. I studied here in Toronto, Marbelle on Yorkville. And shortly after that, I took off to the UK to develop more skills and just do more advanced studies.
Was it like a specific program?
It was a specific program for, it was a company called Tony and Guy. And of course, it's very popular now, but back then it was about the same as Vidal Sassoon. There was only 2 academies that existed, one in Tokyo and one in London. And I've opted for the London branch first because I didn't speak Japanese. And it was a lot cheaper in the UK.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I had family there to fall back on. And I came back. It was a beautiful few months I stayed there. And I came back and I thought, of course, I can't remember, maybe 2021, I came back to Canada and I thought I was the bee's knees. Because nobody's had that experience of European trained, and especially coming from a Black guy too. You know, it was just not very typical. You know, so I decided that I was going to work in the best area in Toronto. I started off in Yorkville. Then shortly after that, I moved up to Yonge and St. Clair, and Yonge and Eglinton, and then I got I got scouted by someone from the burbs, and she basically came in to have her hair done, not knowing who she was. We'd set up an interview that afternoon, and this one new client came in, my last appointment before the interview. I gave her a haircut and she was just so elated, and she couldn't wait anymore to meet at this coffee shop. And she says, I'm the lady you're supposed to meet.
Oh, that is awesome.
Hired.
Oh, that is awesome.
Double your salary of whatever you make right now, just for you to come with me.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And so that's how this started. And yeah, I worked with her on and off for about 2 years, and I was not satisfied with the environment and the politics. So, you know, it's just one of those things that morphed into that, you know, if I can't find the right salon for me, I'm going to have to make it.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and this is how it evolved. And I've had very, very special people in my life over the few years, especially in that period, that mentored me. I didn't even know that I needed mentoring, you know, but there's just advice of the ages, you know. This one client had said to me, you know, she knew I was frustrated. I didn't know how to even start to open a business. And she gave me the story of her father-in-law who built this Canadian empire in the construction business. And she broke it down to me. She says, how much money do you have in the bank right now? And I told her X amount. She says, well, how much is one chair going to cost? One mirror, you already have your tools, and first and last month's rent, and to put in a sink. And I calculated and I said, well, I have that much. She says, well, what are you waiting for? Go to the beauty supplier, order those things. First of all, find your spot.
Yes.
And that took me a while because it's just so excited. It's like I felt any area that I was going to be in is going to make it work. I decided to stick up in the suburbs, and this one spot that I remember it being built, and I had imagined that. And this is a part of the law of attraction. I thought didn't have any emotional feeling attached to it, but just thought, wouldn't that be great? That particular spot, having a salon in there, like, and that 2 years it took to manifest that.
Wow.
That same particular spot that I was watching as it was being built.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was it. It was, then, it's those little cliches that, you build it and they will come. I didn't, I thought, okay, I had a few clients. This is X amount of money I can make in 1 week, in a month, and I'll just build. And it's just the savviness you have when you're young. Like, I'm going to be successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that drive. And, looking back now, it was just, I think it was passion that was driving. Yes. There was no word in the English vocabulary that says I couldn't. And I didn't want to entertain any other word than just, it's going to work.
That's right.
And I was so grateful that even in hindsight, I was so very well supported.
And it's great that you were able to have that conversation with that client at that time, because that one word pushed you to the next step.
Yes.
Really take it serious to say, you can do it. You can do it now.
Yeah. And it's also simplifying, because sometimes we think our dreams are just so much larger than life.
Yes. And so far, and so hard to attain, because it's so far away.
Right?
Yes.
And it's like, what step do I take? Like, there's going to be so many. Just start with one.
That's right.
First step.
Right. First step.
Whatever you have to do, save this money.
Exactly.
Don't touch it. Because over the next 6 months, you're going to need this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you, I'm thinking that's the hair network.
That is the hair net that came out.
How was that first? How were those first few months as you got established? Was it really petrifying? Was it, okay, I'm excited, I'm here, now I want to start? Did you have to hit the road and put out a lot of feelers for
Not
clients?
At all.
Look at God. This
was the naivety of youth. I thought I was just so fabulous. What couldn't work? Just let my work talk for itself. There's a little bit of arrogance in there in hindsight. It's but I mean, at that point, I really, and I still do, love people, love to talk. I love fashion, and I always saw the best in people. And I'm not sure if that's also a part of being naive, but it's just, how could other people would be laughing at someone's get up, and I would be like, I understand her idea, but she probably needs to execute it differently.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so I do get involved in some gossip, but when it starts to not feel right anymore, when I'm feeling like I'm attacking or assassinate someone's character, that's when I have to put my hands off. Like, this girl is trying her best and she's doing whatever she knows. She needs an expert. And of course, in those 20 years, a lot of shows were born out of that idea. you know, like the Fab Five, like the guys who were helping people, you know, improve their lifestyle, their appearance, and all that.
Yeah.
And that was also inspiring, and it was encouraging for me, because I knew that, you know, it's great that it's on TV, and I've been a part of some of those shows. But it was more important to me that I was dealing with day-to-day people
Yes.
that were just, and what was happening is the clients that saw me, or my clients, were also inspiring other people.
Nice.
Like, you got your hair hooked up, girl. I knew what you looked like before.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I also didn't want to intimidate people, that I was going to touch them when they came into my chair. That was so very important.
Yes.
So it started with, you know, very genteel conversations. And then the next thing you know, we're going in deep.
Yes.
And that actually took over my love or passion for hair. Is just such incredible, amazing stories. And especially when I started to share my stories, and it was just like, oh girl, you're so fabulous.
Yeah, well, that's,
I want to show you how fabulous you are.
Yes, and I think that was one of the things why I think I loved coming back, because you're exactly right. You didn't come in straight into, so tell me about yourself. You never came in with that, so people were like, wait a minute, I don't know you like that, to how am I telling you my business? And you just genteelly, as you said, just came in with a just conversation. And one thing led to another, which led to another. And like you said, yeah, I think that's how come our friendship has, you know, been built over all these years. And whenever we meet, it's a great conversation, deep conversation, you know, things that either help us in our careers or help us personally to expose something and feel vulnerable to each other. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes. So I always appreciate you for that, because from way back when, you know, it's always been something I felt very comfortable talking with you all the time. And again, it's like one of those things where you cozy up to your local bar, and you know the bartender, and they're like, hey, how's it going? The same thing. It's same thing when you go to the salon, you know, that culture of a salon, being able to chat with either other people in there or your stylist. It is true. It is true, and it exists.
Well, that's what they call us, the armchair psychologist, right?
That's right. And so tell me, so now, as your career evolved in at the Hair Network, did you ever do hair shows?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, that was one of the driving forces behind my popularity. I think it was 2 years in. Building the Hair Network, I entered a competition and I won Canadian Hairstylist the Year division in Afro hair, and of course with that came a lot more other accolade. I was, you know, written up in the Toronto, all the newspaper, the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Star, and that created a lot of buzz. And especially in the Black community.
Yeah.
And then it led to a contract with Clairol that I had.
Hey, nice.
And I worked with them for a couple of years. I can't remember now how long, but somewhere along there. And then I got snatched by another company. And it worked for a while because they were non-competitive.
Okay.
So one made color, one made relaxer. So I could have done both. And it came to a head where this other Clairol started to make relaxers, which now is a conflict with a firm. And so that was a tough choice, where Bev Maskell again, I seeked her guidance, and she just said to me, where do you think you're going to get the longevity in your career and the training and all that? And so I made my own decision of sticking with care, and it was a longer a longer run for sure.
Yeah.
And the education, and I think that's what built my confidence in how I speak to clients and assure them that I know exactly the chemical that I'm putting on your hair.
Mm-hmm.
I know the end result that you're going to get, and I will guarantee that.
Nice.
So, you know, I wouldn't have had that if it was not for my training, my technical training.
Right, right.
This other manufacturer, a firm. So yeah, that made me a lot more sound.
Did you see the uptick after that? After all the newspaper articles, did you see that immediate uptick of new clients?
Absolutely. There were some people walking in with the newspaper clipping. and then you know, this happened over years. I got written up. I was among the top 5 Black salons in Canada.
Oh, great.
And these people have been there years before me. It was published in Essence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was just, wow. And I remember, I think even 10 years after that article, this lady came into me with that article and she said, you know, I knew I eventually was going to move to Toronto and I had to keep this.
Oh, that is amazing.
And yeah, she's so I got a lot of clients. And of course I did a little more of my own advertising, you know, just to support certain people in the community.
Yes.
For exposure and all that. And then, and I think that tipping point was, I was recognizing that people said they couldn't afford me. I was too elite, or I was one of those snobby people that I only have successful women and career-driven women who make a lot of money and all that. And it's just, it didn't sit well with me. And I had to sit, you know, I'm one of those people when I hear criticism, I have to step back and see if it's constructive or destructive.
Yes.
It's like, what is it about me? Because I think I'm such a nice person and I'm so open with everyone. And then I remember going back to Bev again. And she says, you know what, Romeo, that's not a bad thing. You know, you don't feel that you have to be successful in order to give back. And maybe that's what you need, you know? It was after her death, I decided that following her advice, I would start doing, you know, volunteer work. I decided to start with Rosalie Hall, which is a home for unwed mothers. I'm not sure the political term now, but for teenagers who find themselves in trouble or pregnant. And most of these women were, young women were somehow sexually molested or interfered with. Some of them had a very bad home life, how they got themselves there. So there was a bigger story behind just a teenage pregnancy.
Right.
And that drew me in. And, you know, I remember my first time going there, it was around Mother's Day, and I decided that I was going to do some hair, like, and I was so shocked that these young girls took to me so quickly and so openly. And I remember the director said to me, oh, trust me, Romeo, they know who they can trust. And I was just like, oh, you know, that was one of those little signposts of, you know, the effect that I could have on other people.
That's right.
You know, and I thought, okay, this is great. Like now it's like, okay, these women would never be able to afford walking into the hair network.
Right.
And so, yeah, I know it sounds like, okay, so I've appeased someone now, but it just so happens that I got so much out of that. And
That's
I
right.
learned so much about myself in the midst of that.
Yeah.
Until the director got wind of, some people in my circle, and so she thought I was very well connected, and they pushed me into the fundraising committee to
Mm.
raise funds. And then, that sort of fizzled because I was not on a one-on-one anymore with.
Yeah. That's not your ministry.
That's not, oh, girl, that's not my ministry. Yeah.
Exactly. But you did such great work also in your salon because you were mentoring, up and coming stylists and allowing them to, putting them under your wing. So tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. I had some lovely, actually, I was just thinking about that, people in my past. And I know a lot of them recognize that I was, very rigid at times, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, I've always said to them, whenever you're ready to leave the hair network, I want you to be walking into a salon that's considered better.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be able to walk into any top 5-star salon and be confident in your abilities.
Yes.
Because if I say so, and of course, maybe I was putting myself on a pedestal, but I felt that I was giving them my best.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them took it gracefully and some didn't. Depends on where they were. And that always also a part of my development as well, to be able to be aware of where people were in their own
journey. Correct.
So this is also a part of, developing professionally.
Yes.
To assess where people are.
Yeah.
See which information is going to be beneficial to them.
And again, they were the age that you were at the time was probably a few years more than when you started, and that they were very young. So when you go back to that time when you were that age, were you open to hearing feedback? You may not.
I got feedback whether I wanted it or not, because I remember in my last months of hairstyling school here, this one teacher says, you will never amount to anything. You will never be successful in this industry.
Oh, wow.
And of course, I was so cocky. It's like, oh, yeah? That's what you think.
Exactly.
You don't know me. So I pretty much set in my ways of what it is I wanted out of this industry. Like I knew that I loved it, and that passion was going to drive me to excellence.
Yes. Well, let's transition now on how this has now almost taken you on a different path, a path that started, I think, in the salon, but now has you looking towards a different destination. Talk about your next steps in going back to school.
Oh, yeah. So so after 20 years, I started feeling a little flat with, the day-to-day running of a salon, and I was enjoying those conversations more. I was doing, keeping up with the current trend. At least, at least that's how I felt. Yeah. It probably wouldn't have translated that way, but I really looked into, there's a lot of people out there that are hurting and needing some kind of guidance or place to talk about this. And sometimes it's deeper than it's going to happen in a salon.
Yes,
because you still have the peripheral general population there, and sometimes they will chime in.
Yeah, exactly.
So that part of hair styling for me just got more intense, and the other stuff started to look like more fluff, to me. Yes. I hope that it didn't translate into my my work, but
no, I can guarantee it did not.
that connective I had with those clients, it was just so beautiful. And I wanted to tap into that more. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because there were times growing up and in my life, I thought people were just awful. And, you know, I never got to recognize that some trauma or something has happened to make people treat other people badly. It's just,
Yes.
as they say, hurt people hurt others.
People. That's right. Yeah.
They hurt people.
Yes.
And I think also to this, if I could acknowledge this, that I remember I had quite a difficult client, a difficult clients period. They were considered high maintenance. And some other clients would say, I don't know how you deal with it. But I knew them differently than others.
Yeah.
You know, there were a lot of these women that would come in and they would, you know, others would say, like, I can tell she doesn't have a lot of other female friends of how she behaves. And it's, I wouldn't go there, but I knew exactly what they meant, but also what that individual was going and how she viewed the world is how she was displaying to other people, how she felt the world looked at her. She was projecting onto others. And that's where this passion started in me. It's like, she's not such a bad person. You know, sometimes she's misguided, and you know, she wants the world to stop right now. For her, it's like, you know, she needs those baby steps. And it just goes back to being overwhelmed of opening a business. How do I do it?
Yes.
And it's frustrating. And so I'm going to get angry every minute I think about opening a shop.
Yes, exactly.
I can't do it.
Exactly.
It's too hard. It's too hard, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that was also a trigger of me. Okay, this is some direction I should explore.
Yes. Yes. And how was it feeling going back to say, man, I'm going back to school after all these years? What did that feel like?
Oh my gosh. So, and I left on a high note. You know, I did leave the hair network on a high note. You know, I thought, you know, for building this from ground zero to this, you know, university is going to be a walk in the park, because this was my second time around to university, right? Because I did, you know, I was interested in psychology. And I thought I'll get back to that later after I'm retired, but it's just this pull.
Yes.
And so to me, it was a natural progression, you know?
Yeah.
People that knew me deeply, right? And I had so many people I knew and grew up with people who were in that field. You know, even one of my best friends to date, she is a therapist. And they've all gone through the psychology. They've done different things with it, and it looks different than just clinical. And so I'm still there of how is this going to look at the end of it? You know, so my direction is in social psychology, how people behave in groups, which is quite fitting as I was observing in the last 20 years, you know, at the Hair Network. And that's where it started opening my eyes on who the individual is and how it plays out in groups.
Right.
So yeah.
And how is the studying and all that stuff coming back? How is that feeling?
It was tough. And emotionally, I felt like a failure having to start back and going to school, because I started back the same year my daughter went away to university to do her undergrad. And I thought, this is a great time. She doesn't need me, and she's away, you know, in a different city. But as I'm looking around, it's like, I'm not as young as I think I was. Yeah, I'm still presenting as a 40-something-year-old. Although my mind says I'm 20-something.
Oh.
So yeah, so it's just like, and then I had to stop myself. It's like, this is your narrative. Nobody knows you. No one even noticed you, but you're walking around these bags with, literally these emotional baggages that, they might think I'm a failure why I'm here. This late in my life. It's like, this is your narrative, not theirs.
That's right. That is correct.
And I remember this one class, this one guy was like 19 or 20, and he was shocked to hear my age. He says, "You're older than my dad." It's amazing. It's amazing. It's like, and you still want to learn? It's
Exactly.
Like most still going to university, right?
Exactly.
I thought, wow, okay. So,
No, but that's wonderful. I think at the end of the day, I just love hearing like stories like yours because it's very similar. I always believe that no matter what we do in life, it all leads back to how we help other people.
yeah.
People who, whatever career you go into, it always leads back to how you influence or help somebody else, whether it is a singer, what they sing really resonates, helps people, whether it is a teacher, you're helping bring up the next generation of children, whether it's a doctor, you're helping with from a health perspective, of course, the faith, anybody in the church, a choir teacher is helping children understand form, and depending on what they're singing, working together as a group, an ensemble. My career started off in finance, which all of a sudden led to training, which led to change management. What am I doing? I'm helping people to change and adopt to change, and that has some psychology underneath it as well. So I feel that no matter what job you take, I'm trying to think, what job in this world doesn't lead to helping people somehow, or even if you start off from a selfish place of I just want to do this to make money, in the end, it either leads to helping people or you end up going down a road that you focus more on the support of others versus garnishing money for yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I also think too, it starts to diminish your purpose. When you start looking at just the money or the financial part. It's such an empty place to be.
Yes.
Yeah. But, there's been times in my student life now that it's like, I need a little bit of emptiness right now because I need to.
Yes, we need to sustain ourselves. We need to sustain ourselves.
We need to sustain ourselves. But, added to your point, just piggybacking on to what you're saying is we all have talents.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only valuable. Those talents are only valuable when you're willing to share it with people.
Please and thank you. Exactly.
That's the only time it adds value, because I don't know what you have to offer. You keeping it to yourself does nothing for you, and it does nothing for, society at large,
Exactly.
your friends or family even.
Yeah.
So, and I think too, with some, of our difficulties, I think sometimes we go through full circle moments with that of being hurt and then learning the lessons for you to share it and help others grow.
Correct.
And they don't have to take on your stance on what you went through, but there's something there that can help guide them or inspire them.
Well, you know what? I think that is a good note to end on for this segment, because it leads nicely into our next segment. So I think for now, we'll take a pause for the cause, as I love to say. And but I don't want anybody watching to go anywhere. We want you to click like or the thumbs up below and head over to the final segment of this episode. So more to come with Romeo Lewis. So we'll be back in a minute.